Good evening, Red Bank neighbors. How's it going? I'm tired. I have a headache. But I'm glad to be here with you guys tonight, always. We have, a few things on the agenda tomorrow. The biggest thing, obviously, is that we're having our public hearing and our first reading and vote on the fiscal year 27 budget. So tomorrow is the first reading, first vote, public hearing. If you have questions, comments, concerns, we'll be meeting at 6 p.m. It is the last agenda item. Probably just to be able to allow for ample time for citizens to give comments and questions and so on and so forth. So we vote tomorrow on the budget for the first reading, and then we'll have our second and final reading on June the 2nd, which is our first June meeting. So if you can't come tomorrow, you still have another opportunity. You also can email us or message us, commissioners, just to share your thoughts. But yeah, that's the big voting agenda item for tomorrow. We've got a few other things, so I'll cover those in a minute. But one thing I wanted to mention is we have a fun event this Saturday. We're doing a food truck Saturday event. The first one that we scheduled, we had to cancel for inclement weather. So food truck Saturday, second go. Hopefully it'll work out. 5:30 to 8:30. So hopefully you guys can make it. I actually have somewhere else I have to be, so I don't know if I'll be able to attend, or if I do, it won't be the whole time. But what's the other thing? I don't, just sharing my thoughts and comments, my own personal opinions, not representing the city or anybody else, just me, Stefanie Dalton. I personally am supporting Lauren Pinkston. She's an independent candidate for governor, and I've shared a lot of her stuff. You guys have probably seen it, but she's going to be in town next week, being hosted at a private residence. So if you guys are interested in meeting her, talking to her, asking her questions, just reach out to me. You can message me and I can share that information with you. So just wanted to throw that out there. All right, first thing, we have our monthly financial update from our CFO, Chris Pickle. She'll just be talking about where we are in the budget year as far as revenues, expenditures, if we're kind of in line. We look to be doing pretty well, all things considered, since the property tax mess up last year. We really did pull back. We also know that we always have funds that aren't expended fully every year for personnel, because we have positions that open up and are not filled right away. So we seem to be doing okay, all things considered. But just tune in for that. That'll be the last one before we vote on the budget fully. So item 2, the next few items are all on our consent agenda. So this is to approve a contract amendment with Barge Design for our Bicycle Boulevard project. It's like we're getting there, guys. That project, we got awarded that grant from TDOT. Well, we got told we were going to get the grant award, 3+ years ago. Maybe 4 years ago, and they did not have the funds. They overcommitted their grant funds, so we had to wait. And so we're finally in a position where we've got an engineering firm contracted. They've already been doing the NEPA environmental studies, design work and all that. This is for an amendment because what is being proposed, this is from staff, is there's a section of Dayton Boulevard that runs parallel to where the Bike Boulevard is going to go, that we're going to restripe down to 3 lanes. We're just doing this in certain parts of Dayton Boulevard where it makes sense, where there's a lot of pedestrian activity, where there's going to be a lot of cycling activity. We want to make sure that there can be bike lanes and pedestrian pathways that make it safe. And this area, this section of Dayton Boulevard in particular, is close to where where AutoZone is and Fair Street, and there's the Stringer's Branch where it's that big ditch, and there's no sidewalk there. And so there are people who walk next to that like cement, fence, I guess, I don't know what it's called, on the road, like in the lane, the travel lane. So it's super, super dangerous. So that's part of the section that they're going to be talking about. So this is an amendment for Barge to do the NEPA environmental studies and the roadway design for that stretch of Dayton Boulevard to narrow it down from 5 to 3 lanes. And those funds are coming from the local metropolitan planning organization. Those extra funds are not going to have to come out of our match. We already have our match that's already been put toward the project. So yay, that's very exciting for that. Item 3 is approving an agreement with Embark Construction for White Oak Dog Park sidewalk extension. So there's you can look, there's a map online at redbanktn.gov. If you go into the agenda and minutes and pull up the work session packet, it'll show you the map of the dog park. But there's like a sidewalk path, and it kind of does this weird, almost like horseshoe loop. And what's happening is there are people who are coming to walk and run on the sidewalk, but they're encountering people coming with their dogs. So there's like some entanglements, let's say. So what this extension is going to be for is like, so it's like a horseshoe. They're going to do the extension here so that walkers and runners can bypass where people are going into the dog park. So that should help alleviate any kind of interactions there. So that's $19,518, and that's coming from ARPA facility improvement funds. So again, not tax dollars, local tax dollars. Items 4 and 5 are proclamations. So the first one is to recognize Public Works Appreciation Week. And then the second one is to recognize National Police Week, which was actually last week. I feel like we always are doing this one like a week behind for some reason. And designating May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day. You guys may have seen that some flags were at half staff. I didn't know why that was. When I looked it up, it's because it was Peace Officers Memorial Day. So item 6, accept the HIDA grant for 2026 in the amount of $19,000. This is a non-matching recurring grant. We apply for it. We get it every year. It's a high intensity drug area grant, and it's specifically used for overtime for one of our officers for like drug investigations. Then item 7 is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance to request to rezone 1106 Ashmore Avenue. So that's they want to rezone it from R1 to RZ1. R1 is just like your typical single-family detached home zone. RZ1 is still single-family detached, but with a 0 lot line, so that you reduce those setback requirements. They already got a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals, so that's already been approved. And so then this is their next step. I'm not positive, but I believe what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to rezone it that way, potentially so they can build next to the house, like another house next to the house that's already there. But we'll find out tomorrow. It's a public hearing and it's the first reading. Like I said, the ordinances, all of those have first and second readings. So if you live near there, or if you just have concerns about that or questions, if you can't make it tomorrow, you can come on June the 2nd when we'll have our second and final reading. And then item 8 is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance amendment to an ordinance from 2023 that placed a condition on this rezoning request at the time for Strawberry Lane property. So that's like on the south end of town, in the Valdo neighborhood area, like Linda Drive, Alden Avenue, that area. There was a condition put on the rezoning that all of the homes had to be single-family detached. My understanding is that the developer now wants to build townhomes instead, and so he is making this request to remove the single-family detached condition. It was already approved by the Planning Commission, recommended to us, so we'll have our first reading tomorrow, second one on June the 2nd. And then the last item, like I said, like I started with, is our public hearing and first reading of the FY27 budget. We are, as I have been telling y'all, we are proposing a tax increase. It's about 14%. It is a 16-cent tax increase. Right now we're at $1.13. It would put us at $1.29, and approximately $800,000 use of fund balance. It would draw our fund balance down, but we would still have more than 6 months of operational revenues to cover operational and personnel costs. Actually, the state, I thought they required you to have 3 months. They actually only require you to have 2 months in your general fund. So we'll still be well above that. And then, next year we would have a conversation about doing another 16-cent tax increase, because there had been conversation about a 32-cent tax increase, but because of continued feedback from the community asking for us to spread these tax increases out incrementally, that's why this is happening this way, or being proposed this way rather. So that's where we are. We had our budget town hall. I did some stories. I don't know if you guys missed those. I'm having some struggles getting just a little frustrated with folks who don't pay attention, who aren't engaged, who aren't showing up, who aren't reading the documents, who are not asking questions, just making very, negative statements without talking to anyone. So, but we had about 12 people show up to the budget town hall. I'm really appreciative of those folks that were able to make it out. And we had really great information out, so I hate that so many folks missed it. But our staff really went above and beyond. And those storyboards that were hanging up at the community center, I haven't looked, but they were going to take pictures of those and put those on the website. So if they're there, they'll be under the budget button. So if you go to redbanktn.gov and then just scroll down, there's a button that says budget. It has all of our budget documents from all of the past several years. But for 2027, it's got the budget memos, the budget summaries. You don't have to read through the whole weird, wonky budget layout yourself. You can read these memos. They have almost line item by line item. Hey, this is going up or this is going down, and here's why. This is why this is a different ask than it was last year. Here's a big item that we're gonna buy this year, and here's why. We're voting on, encompassed with this budget vote is, we're going to be adopting our first capital improvement plan. And it's a living document, so it will be changing, we'll be reevaluating it every year, but our first ever capital improvement plan. So there's a lot of people who, I think don't recognize that that's happening or maybe what that means. But when we talk about capital improvements, and it covers facilities, and it covers infrastructure, and it covers equipment, and it covers projects, park projects and TDOT projects, etc. We know that there's so many things that the people want, and there's so many things that need to happen, that we have to take care of and manage as a local government. And we can't do that if we're not looking at, the horizon, what's coming in the next few years. And so we're finally able to do that. But because we are making that decision to do that this year, to start that this year, finally, 71 years after we incorporated, planning for the future. Well, this is our next step. We've been doing that for the past 5.5 years, but planning for the future, we need revenues to pay for those capital investments. Obviously, most of them are not going to be paid with cash, straight cash, but we'll take out loans that will cover, that will last for 4 years at this, interest rate, for this many vehicles and, whatever pieces of equipment need to be purchased in that cycle. So that's really a big step for us, and that's definitely where a large portion of the tax increase is coming from. Because if we want to make these capital investments, we have to pay for them. And we can't just like keep kicking the can down the road. That's what's happened to everybody across this country for the past several decades. I've said this 8,000 times. Anybody who's listened to my porch talks, you guys have heard me say this so many times, but it's just true. Infrastructure investment in this country has been awful. Like, they just didn't do it. Nobody wanted to pay for it. So they just kept saying, oh, well, the next guy will take care of it. The next guy will take care of it. And then no guys took care of it. And then until they had to, right? Till, like, Chattanooga and Hamilton County both are under EPA consent decrees for not investing in sewer infrastructure. And they were leaking and leaching into the ground, into the stormwater. Our sewer was like, we've got E. coli in Stringer's Branch. Like, that's what happens when you don't invest in that infrastructure and maintain it over time. If you wait for it to crumble, it's going to cost way more. It becomes an emergency, and then all these other things that you had planned for can't happen anymore or get postponed indefinitely. And that's where we are. We just have to keep up with these things, because guess what, guys? We cannot leave this place worse for our kids and our grandkids after us. That's not fair, and we don't want to live that way. That's not the kind of community that I feel like I live in here in Red Bank. I feel like we want to take care of future generations, set them up for success, and we do that by investing in and caring for our community. So that's my soapbox. Thank you guys for paying attention, staying, tuned in. If you do have questions about the budget, if you have looked at the documents, if you have any questions at all, you can message me here. You can email me. You can come to the meeting tomorrow, talk to me before the meeting. You can come and give comments or ask questions during citizen comments. But we're very accessible. Please come. We'd love to see you guys. Even if you support what we're doing, it might be nice for a couple of you to show up tomorrow. I just don't know. We'll see how it goes. So, all right. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock at the work session, 6 o'clock for the regular meeting, first budget vote. Have a good night.